Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms where I give you a heads up about upcoming shows and which date and time they will be aired. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the shows, MP3 files which you can download, or links to your favorite platform like iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and all other major sources. You can find information for upcoming and past talk show appearances as well as new book projects at MarlenePardo.com. You can also purchase books and merchandise there. And you can visit my author page on Amazon at Marlene Pardo Pellicer. Due to popular demand, I'm narrating my True Believer stories that I've collected throughout the years in a new series called Supernatural Storytime. You can find links at supernaturalstorytime.com. If you are into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate some of those at Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If you would like to read noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird, you can visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at MiamiGhostChronicles.com. I do want to thank you all for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi everybody, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How's everybody doing today? Good, I hope. I am doing great. Everything is good here. It's October, even though I know you guys are not going to hear this for a little bit. It's October, and guys that heard me last week, I could tell I'm still getting over my allergy attack that was really not an allergy attack, that became a head cold that I thought was going to get rid of, and it's just lingering, and I don't even have cold weather to blame it on. So, yeah, if I sound a little bit weird, I apologize for that, but I'm still in the throes of it. Anyway, I know you guys are going to be really excited when you hear what guest I have. But before that, I want to let you know that about maybe a week ago, no, a little bit, about 10 days ago, I released my first fiction book called Walker Between the Worlds. It's book one of the Sybil Chronicles. This is, some people consider it urban fantasy, supernatural thriller. There's a lot of genres that you could put it under. It's going to be book one, and it's gotten off to a great start. You can find it on my website, marlenepardo.com, or on Amazon. I'm already working on a spin-off, a novella that's going to be released at the end of November, right in time for the holidays, or right in between the holidays. So any of you that are into that kind of, fiction, by all means, check it out. I think it's got a lot of interesting characters, and so much the initial feedback I've gotten from people that have read it has been really, really good. So again, Walker Between the Worlds, book one of the Sybil Chronicles. But let's get on to the good stuff, as in who I've got for a guest. And I have with us Al Santariga. And as you know, this is the second time back. Let me give you a little bit of bio for those of you who had not heard the first interview that we had together. He's a sensitive and an intuitive. He's the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society. He's director of the New York State UFO Project, director of the North American Dogman Project, the New York State chapter, and director of the New York State Sasquatch organization. And how are you doing today, Al?
I'm doing great, Marlene. How are you?
Fantastic. It is great to have you back on.
Thank you for inviting me back. It's my
on
pleasure.
the contrary, it is a pleasure. It's great to have you back. And, I gave that short bio, and we had discussed earlier, because if we could talk about so many things, because Al's had been having experiences ever since he was a teenager, a young kid. But we decided that we're going to go in the direction of cryptids today, because obviously, as you could tell by his bio, he has a lot of information, a lot of stories and experiences that he's had in this field. So, take it away, Al. I know that you've been out there. You actually do the field work. It's just not stories, right?
Oh no, no. You know what? I don't call them stories because everybody, if you say they're stories, then people think you're making them up.
Right.
They're personal experiences.
Okay.
I'm happiest when I'm investigating, boots on the ground.
Right.
I'm horrible about going over evidence and video
Okay.
and audio. I'll be brutally honest. I'm way behind on everything all the investigations I do because I just love to be in the moment. I love to be in the moment.
Okay.
I thought since we're close to Halloween, I'd pick a pretty scary subject for tonight, and I thought we'd go with my Dogman experiences. And
Yes.
if you know that sounds good to you,
Oh,
and
yes. Yes.
okay, very good. So
And as we were discussing, Dogman, like I said, Bigfoot is like, oh, it's, sometimes you hear some stories, it's like, is he friendly, is he not friendly, is he okay, But Dogman, absolutely, hands down, I could live without having an encounter. How's that?
well, after you hear my encounter, you'll understand why I don't go back to the den anymore. But
Okay.
so it all started one morning, early in the morning. I get up. I'm a commuter. I commute down to Westchester. I live up in Dutchess County. It's about 60 miles each way, and
Okay.
so I get up like at 4:30 in the morning, and I get on the Parkway around 5, and I'm heading out. So usually I'm one of the early birds on the Parkway. There's really not that much traffic at 5 o'clock in the morning. And one day I'm driving on the Parkway, and I see across the meadow, and this is a big meadow where the deer always hang out and graze in the morning. So I'm always careful when I drive by there that I don't hit a deer or something, because
Okay.
I've had them run along the side of the car, because I've had coyotes chase them in front of the car too. But
Okay.
one day I'm driving down the Parkway, and I see 4 sets of amber eyes coming out of the woods. Now, this particular woods, I didn't think was that big, because there's a middle school behind there, there's a town hall behind there. So I'm looking at these eyes, and I'm thinking, man, they're pretty high, like right up at the top of the tree line with the branches of the trees, because they cut the trees at like a 6 or 7 foot level, so the tractors can get underneath them to cut the grass, to mow the grass.
Right. Yes.
And these eyes are up there, and I'm thinking. So I'm slowing down. I'm in my Jeep. I'm slowing down. I'm the only guy on the parkway. I'm slowing down because I got to get a better look. Put the window down on the passenger side, and I'm looking at these things, and they're walking out bipedally, and there's 2 of them. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, I think we got some Sasquatch coming out of the woods,
Right.
That's my first thought popped into my head. So I'm looking at these things, and I'm looking at them, and they're walking out from underneath the trees, and they're walking towards the meadow. And then they drop down to all 4s, and they put their heads down on the like towards the grass. And I'm thinking, these things are like, they're like tracking something, you know what I mean?
Right,
They're looking
right.
for a scent, and I'm thinking, what the hell are these things now? Now I'm not sure they're Bigfoots anymore,
Right.
And I'm just stopped on a parkway looking at them, and then all of a sudden they notice me. And they both look at me, and they start walking towards me. And now I can see their heads bobbing up and down. So I'm saying, wow, whatever these things are, they got a big head and a long neck, almost like a horse,
Okay. Okay.
But they're not the size of a horse, but they're big. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I looking at? And then all of a sudden they start running towards me, and they're coming, and we're locked. My eyes and their eyes and locked. And I must have went into like some kind of daze or something. I felt like I was being hypnotized, or we were just locked in. And these things are getting closer and closer and closer. And then a little voice in the back of my head says, Al, it's time to get out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I pull up the window, and I punch the Jeep out, and I get the hell out of there. And I really don't say anything to anybody, because I don't know what the hell I seen. I'm thinking, what the hell was that, you know? And so after a couple of days, I talked to my partner, Brian, and I says, I got to tell you, man, I seen this weird thing. And he's like, oh, dude, you got to go back. You got to investigate. You got to go back.
Sure.
So then that was like on a Thursday or something. Yeah, that was like a Thursday. Oh, no, that was a Wednesday. Thursday, I get on the parkway. I said, okay, I'll go back Sunday and investigate. Thursday, I get on the Parkway, and there's a truck in the middle of the meadows. And it's like a Department of Environmental Control or some one of those government trucks. And it's parked there, and it's like a green Jeep, a pickup truck, like an F10 or something like that, a small one. But there's nobody in the truck. And I'm thinking, what the hell is that doing? But I know that, you know, there's a creek back there, and they fill it with they stock it with trout and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe, you know, they're doing something with the creek or something, you know. And then, you know, I go home the next day, it's there again. I'm like, wow, this truck hasn't moved in 2 days, and I never see anybody around. You know what I mean? So then Saturday comes. I'm a mailman. I work Saturdays. I get in the truck Saturday. Now Saturday comes, and the pickup truck is gone, but there's an SUV, like a Blazer, and it's got another logo on it, another one of those environmental protection agencies that New York has. I forgot what the initials were on a truck, but it wasn't the protection agency. It was another agency. But I'm thinking, wow, now there's another truck here. This is crazy. You know, what? I get home from work, and the truck is still there. So I turn around, I get back on the Parkway, and I get off. There's a service road and I get off, and I start walking around, and I'm looking, and there's nobody in the truck. So I go back Sunday. I said, okay, you know what? Before I get arrested or something, let me get the hell out of here, and I'll come back Sunday when there's nobody around. Sunday I come back, the SUV is gone, right? So I go out there with my tape measure, and I'm measuring the branches where I've seen these things walk out of, and the branches are 7.5 feet high. So whatever these creatures were, they were tall. So then I go into the woods, and like I said, I know there's like a preschool back there, and there's a middle school. And I get past that stuff, and I'm in the woods, and I go down into the creek, and there's people fishing, and they're all telling me, yeah, this time of the year they stock the creek with trout and bass and all this other stuff. So I'm thinking, okay. I'm walking along the creek. I go underneath the service road, and I come out on the other side of the road, and I come out to a giant lake. And I'm thinking, okay, big lake, you know. There's more fish in this lake. There's geese on the lake. To the right of the lake is a swamp. I'm thinking turtles, frogs. And I keep walking. Now I come to a cornfield, and I'm thinking, man, there's really an abundant amount of food back here for this little patch of woods that I just thought was just a little patch of woods. It just goes and goes and goes, and you know you cross over one tiny little street, and then you go into this giant cornfield, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, the corn bring in the deer, the bigger animals go after the deer, and they got all this food. You got the you know, so I'm thinking, wow, you know. So I'm talking to my partner Brian, and he goes, well, what do you think you see? And I said, you know, I gotta be honest with you, my gut kind of tells me there were a couple of dogmen. You know, I said, I don't know why I think they were dogmen. I think because of the way the neck bobbed up and down when they were running towards me, and the way the head was moving. I said, I know a Sasquatch doesn't have a long neck, if any neck at all. And I'm saying, I think I seen a couple of dogmen. So he's like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Then a couple of weeks go by, and we have a hot spot where we go, where I have a sacred site where the Sasquatches are. I actually believe it may be a Native American burial site and a Sasquatch burial site, just because of the way the stones are laid out and everything. And but I noticed that the Sasquatches tend to stay on one side of the woods, and when you get to the other side of the woods, there's X's and stuff like that. You know, where the Sasquatches, you got the archways and everything. So I'm thinking, what the hell is on the other side of the woods? You know what I mean? And you know, so one day I'm being pulled to the woods. I'm being drawn to the woods. So I called my partner Brian. I called my cameraman Bill, and I said, listen, I'm being drawn to the woods. If you guys don't want to come, that's fine. But I'm going. I'm being drawn to the swamp. So like, no, we're going to come with you. We're going to come with you. I
Okay.
said, but I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to look at anything else. I just want to go to the swamp. So I said, okay. So, and the swamp is like 4 miles back in the woods. It's not like it's right there,
Okay.
You get on a mining road, which ends, and then you get on the Appalachian Trail, and you take the Appalachian Trail deep into the woods, and then you veer off the Appalachian Trail, and it brings you to the swamp. So we're at the swamp. And we're walking around and we're looking, and the three of us are all walking around looking, and it's like we're not seeing anything, and it's just weird. But I just feel like we're missing something. I'm like, what the hell am I missing? We're missing something. Why was I drawn here? Why was I being pulled here? I mean, it was like a magnet. So I jump up on this huge rock, and I look into the middle of the swamp, and then all of a sudden, I see a trackway going into the swamp. So then I called the guys up, and I had this long walking stick, and the cattails were like 15 feet high. I actually had to move the cattails with my walking stick to actually see the trackway. So then I called Brian and my cameraman Bill, and they both jump up on the rock, and now we see it. And Bill says, "Oh, I'm going in. I'm following this trackway in." I'm like, "Dude, that's a swamp. You can't go in there." So he goes to step in, and of course he sinks down to his knee. We got to pull him out. Whatever walked through there had very long legs, you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, it was like a veil is lifted from our eyes. Now we're seeing X's and archways and bends and breaks and twists. We're finding scat, and we get up higher. We get up higher on a ridge, and now there's a den in the middle of the swamp. Now I don't know if there's like a little island in the middle of the swamp, but there's a den in the middle of the swamp. So I said, Bill, zoom in on that den. He zooms in with his camera, and we look inside the den, and there's this huge canine head looking towards the south. Okay, we're looking towards the south, and then directly in front of us, looking directly at us, and we were probably facing west at that point, there's this thing that looks like a hyena snarling at us.
Oh,
just
my God.
snarling. And then to the right of this hyena looks like 3 baby Sasquatches. And we're like, what are these 3 Sasquatches doing in the den?
Right.
So Brian's like, oh, we got to get a drone. We got to fly it in there. We got to buy a drone.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, wow, I mean, this is totally insane, all this stuff that we're finding, And I'm saying, this is why I was being drawn here. This is why I was being drawn to this swamp, to find this, know. And it was, like I said, it was very strange because we walked around that area for like an hour and we didn't see anything. Like the veil was covering our eyes.
Right. I was gonna say there's it almost sounds like there was something there so that you wouldn't be able to just like see it but not really see it.
Yeah, and then when I moved those cattails with that walking stick, and my walking stick is like 6 feet long, and I seen that trackway, it was all of a sudden, it was like the camera came into focus, and then you were able to see everything. And then there was a trackway that came out of the back of the den and went straight down the middle of the swamp. Something walked straight down the middle of the swamp and due north. So that was pretty crazy. So then a couple of weeks go by, and we're going over all the evidence and all the video and all this stuff. And I'm from the city. I live in the country now, but I'm from the city. So my bedroom is on the first floor. So we don't, as a rule, I don't sleep with my bedroom window open, okay? Because I'm just from the city. We don't do that in the city,
Right.
So. But one night, it was a real warm night. It was early fall, like late September or something like that. But it was a warm night, so I left the window open, which is something I never do. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. And the weird thing is, I usually sleep with my head towards the top of the bed, away from the window.
Right.
Well, that night I slept with my head right in front of the window, like looking out the window.
Right.
Now I'm laying in bed. My wife is in bed, and our cat is in between us. We have like 3 cats. One of our cats is sleeping in between us. And then all of a sudden, I wake up, and I get a feeling like there's something out the window.
Okay.
So I'm looking out the window. I don't see anything. And then I thought I heard something sniff. And at that point, this cat jumps straight up out of the bed and goes charging upstairs to the kids' room. It sounded like a herd of buffaloes running up.
I was like, you're on your own, man.
Tiny little cat, right? So, I feel like there's something right on the other side of this wall, right? My bedroom wall. And I'm like, okay, there's something out there. Let's go check it out. Let's go see what it is. So I start walking around towards the side of the house where the kitchen is, because we have the sliding glass door that leads to the patio. We got the floodlights. And as I get into the living room, I'm just about to turn into the kitchen. Little voice in my head says, "Don't do this."
Oh, thank God, that little voice.
It says, "Al, you do not turn on those floodlights because you don't want to see what's out there. Go back to bed. Just go back to bed and shut the window." So I do. I go back to bed and I shut the window and I go to sleep. That morning, I wake up. Again, it's 4:30 in the morning. I get up. I go outside to start the car to warm it up because it was a little chilly.
Right.
And as I'm coming back in, and then we have like a 5-car driveway, and my car is the one closest to the street because I'm the first one who leaves. Right. It was my wife's car, my daughter's car, and her car was closest to the garage. And as I start my car up and I turn to walk back towards the house to go inside to get ready, the floodlights are on, of course, because as soon as you walk outside, the sensor lights go off. Yeah, it's got the motion detector. You're right. And all of a sudden, I'm looking, and it looks like there's something under my front deck. Something big and wide and hunched over and just sitting under my front deck. Oh. Now, this is like a Tuesday morning when that's garbage day, right? So usually when garbage day is, I usually go outside with either a can of pepper spray or a little pocket knife, because every now and then we get a pack of wild dogs that'll run through the neighbor tearing up all the garbage, So I don't want to get caught outside unarmed with a pack of wild dogs. Okay. So I got my can of pepper spray, I got my knife in my pocket, my little pocket knife, and I see a shadow under the front deck. And I'm like, what the hell's under my front deck? Now, I can't see because the floodlights are blinding me,
right. Right.
So I was like, well, if there's a homeless person or somebody, camping out under my deck, they got to leave. This is not going to happen. I'm not the type of guy that walks away from this kind of stuff. I walk towards it. So I'm walking towards this thing. And the closer I'm getting, the worse the vibe I'm getting. I'm getting a really bad vibe the closer I get to this thing. So I flick open the knife. I got the pepper can in my hand. Now, before I go out, we have an outside cat that as soon as you turn the kitchen light on to make the coffee, she's ready to eat. She comes out of her house. So it's 4:30 in the morning. I open the sliding glass door, and I feed. Her name is Callie. I feed Callie. And I close the sliding glass door, and I close it. And I got, the wood behind the door so you can't wedge it open and the whole 9 yards. Right. And as I'm walking towards this thing, and my little voice in my head is saying, maybe you should stop, like right about here, bro. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm trying to take it in. I'm saying, man, whatever this thing is, it's huge. It's got the biggest canine head I ever seen.
And you're thinking, what? I'm thinking, you must be thinking, what could this be?
I don't see any eye shine. There's no, teeth showing. I kind of have a feeling I know what's sitting there. You know what I mean? Oh. I do, because I'm looking at this big canine head, and it's hunched over, and I'm actually starting to see, the closer I get, I'm starting to see like a mane on its chest. You know what I mean? Almost like a lion's mane, but only on its shoulders and its chest. At this point, my little cat, Callie, comes around the corner to use my wife's garden for the bathroom because she's finished eating. Uh-huh. And she stops dead in her tracks, and she jumps straight up in the air, and she heads towards the woods. I got like 50 acres, 100 acres behind my house, and I got another 100 acres of wetland across the street. Okay. And she's running through when I tell you this cat, if she's 7 pounds soaking wet, she's a lot. She's running through the woods like a herd of elephants, this tiny little cat. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what's under here. The cat just scared the hell out of the cat. So now I go in the house, and now I'm debating. Do I get the shotgun out of the closet? Do I go back out? Do I confront this thing? I kind of know what it is, you know? And I'm thinking, okay, you know, if you go to war with these dogmen, I've heard enough shows, Vic shows on dogman encounters.
Right.
Things don't usually end well for people who go to war with these creatures.
Yes.
But I'm thinking, you know, my son-in-law lives here with my daughter, and he's packing heat. My son is still in the house at that time. He was still going to college in town before he went out of town. And he knows where the rifles are in the closet, where the ammunition is, you know. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not gonna go to war with this thing. I'm gonna leave the gun in the closet. I'm not even gonna tell anybody. I'm just gonna let everybody sleep, and no one's gonna know anything. Okay, I'm not going to tell anybody anything that, you know, because my wife would think I'm insane anyway if I told. She doesn't believe in cryptids, you know what I mean? She believes in UFOs and ghosts.
At this point, were you making any connection to what you had seen? As in, it had followed you, or not? You weren't
You know, and the vibe I got was this thing was saying, you came to my house. Now I'm come, and you came to my house. And you know where I live. Now I came to your house, and I know where you. Because the place where we go to do our cryptid investigation is only 10 miles away from my house, and there's nothing but woods between here and there, you know. And so I said, okay. So I get my tactical flashlight. And as I walk down, because like I said, the floodlights go on and they blind you, so you can't see under the deck. So I get my tactical flashlight and I shine it under the deck. There's nothing under the deck now. The giant shadow that was under there is gone. But I had just done two new retaining walls for my front deck, and there's urine all over my retaining walls, all over. I got photographs of it. I took pictures of it. I put it on the BPS page.
Okay.
It smells like pneumonia.
Right.
And I'm like, son of a bitch, pissed all over my brand new
just
wall.
like marking the territory.
Marking its territory, right. So I was like, okay, you know what? It left. I'm gonna walk away from this, and I know it's telling me don't come back to my house. That's what it's telling. That's the vibe I got.
Right.
You know, don't come back to my house. So I said, okay, message received loud and clear. I won't go back to your house.
Yeah.
So I got in the car. I go to work. I get to work. It's around 7:30. I just punched in, and my wife calls me, and she's freaking out. And I'm like, what's the matter, babe? And she's like, I went to feed Callie when I got up at 7:30, and I went to slide the sliding glass door, and it fell out of the track. Good thing my son Nicholas was in the kitchen with her. He caught the door and held it up, otherwise it would have crushed her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I fed Callie at 4:30 in the morning, and the door was fine. It wasn't out of its tracks. I opened it, I closed it, I locked it back up. She goes, well, it's out of its tracks now. Now, I don't know if this creature came around the back when I was in the front, and tried to get in by lifting the door up, but because I had the wood back there, it couldn't pop it out of its track or whatever.
Right.
But the next day, I happened to be my day off, so I took the door off the track. I relayed the track and everything. I put everything back up, and so that was. That was that incident, and and then I told all my guys about it. And it was like, Jesus Christ, man, you should have told somebody. You should have let those people just sleep in the house without knowing. I was like, you know what? Because if I would have said something to my son-in-law, or woke up my son, and they started loading up all the guns, you know what I mean? Yeah. There may have been like a whole battle royale going on over here.
Yeah, and at that time, you didn't realize that it had maybe tried to get into that door.
Oh yeah, because that would have pissed me off. Yeah, that would have set me off if I knew. And I don't think it was actually trying to get in. What I think it was doing was just saying, "Look, I can get in if I want." You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That was the vibe I got. So then I get home from work that day, and I go in the backyard because now I'm looking for tracks because it was by my back window.
Right.
No, the dirt was hard. The grass was hard. There was no canine tracks. But what there was 4 claw marks in the dirt right under my window. Like, I was here.
All right.
You know what I mean? That was like, holy cannoli. I mean, that was my second or my third encounter with the Dogman. And then like a year later, we decided we wanted to go to this place. It's called Letchworth Village Insane Asylum. Okay,
I have heard of Letchworth, yes.
We've been to the Insane Asylum a couple of times, but we've never been to the actual cemetery.
Okay.
Not knowing anything about the cemetery, I just assumed it was a normal cemetery, like every other cemetery up here in New York. Okay. So we go. We don't bring any weapons with us. Maybe some pepper spray just in case we come across some animals or whatever.
Right.
So we got like 2 cans of pepper spray on me and my partner Brian. And we go up to Letchworth Village. There's no signs for the cemetery. There's no parking for the cemetery.
Okay.
There's one spot across 100 yards up the street by a hiking trail. That's the only place you could park without getting a ticket. Okay. So we parked there. It's during the day. We always do like a day-night type of thing. Okay. So we get there, we go in, and there's a giant monument with everybody's name that's buried there. Now, the cemetery is very, very weird. It's on a hill. There's no headstones, just crosses with numbers on them. Right. Okay. So we're walking around, and we're doing EVPs, and we're working with the, Ovilus and all our devices, and we're filming, and I'm feeling pretty weird, I feel like I got an attachment to me, Oh. So Brian turns to me and he says, dude, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, what's the matter with me? He's like, you're not acting like you. And I, I'm thinking, then who am I acting like? He goes, I don't know. He goes, you don't even sound like you. And I'm laughing. I'm going, then who the hell do I sound like? He goes, Al, you don't even look like you. I go, come on, Bri, what are you talking about? I mean, who do I look like, So we're walking around, and this place is in the middle of the woods, this cemetery. Yeah. In the middle of the woods. Mm-hmm. So we're walking around, and we're doing all these, and we're doing all these ITC devices. We got all this stuff going on, and I decided to do a tree knock. I don't know why I decided to do a tree knock. I didn't see anything that said there was any like Sasquatches in the area or anything like that. Didn't notice anything. I did a tree knock, and we got a tree knock back. So we're like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. So we do another tree knock. We get another tree knock back. But the tree knock we're getting back is coming from where our car is parked. Okay, up the street by the hiking trail. So then all of a sudden, again, it's like the veil is lifted from our eyes. Okay. As soon as this veil is lifted from our eyes, Brian turns to me and says, welcome back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're you again. I was like, okay. And now we see the X's and the archways and the twists and the bends. We find the structure. It is the most insane structure we've ever found. I got photos of it too on the page. They look like telephone poles, 60-foot trees, okay, with no branches on them, just long trees, like the stem of a tree, okay, right. Wedged into a giant oak tree in the shape of a circle, and all of these trees are all 7 to 10 feet off the ground. None of them are touching the ground. And we're walking into the woods to check this thing out because I said, Brian, look at this. Holy crap, we got to get pictures of this, right? So we're in there taking pictures of this thing, and it's like, what the hell did this? We've never seen any kind of structure like this before, And now I get a really bad vibe. I get a vibe like we keep being drawn deeper and deeper into the woods, and I'm getting a bad vibe. And I got to be honest, all of a sudden, I'm getting like a Dogman vibe. And I say to Brian, I say, you know what? We got to stop right here. And he goes, no, we got to keep going, man. Look at all these different kind of I'm like, no, we got to stop right here. I was like, I don't know what did this. You don't know what did this. We've never encountered anything like this before in all of our years of investigating. Uh-huh. I feel like we're being led into a trap. I think we got to get out of here, and we got to regroup. And he says, okay, let's regroup. So we go back to the Jeep. We jump in the Jeep. We go to the diner. We grab a cup of coffee, a bite to eat, and we're talking about everything we've just experienced. And he goes, man, I can't wait for it to get dark, and see what happens.
Let me ask you something. Is this Letchworth Village, is it surrounded by like a lot of woods where it's at?
The village itself, where the insane asylum was, they have like 1,500 acres. They have like 100 or 200 buildings. That's why they called it a village, because it wasn't just an insane asylum. It was a village. Okay?
Yeah, they were self-contained. They produced their own.
It was insane. It was so big, but the cemetery is miles away.
Really?
Like 10 miles away. Yeah, we thought the cemetery was like right on the grounds, but because when we were there originally, we were talking to one of the security guards, and he said, whatever you do, don't go to the cemetery. And I said, why not? And he says, I was there patrolling one night, and I seen 3 light beings in the middle of the cemetery. Just, they looked like humans, but they were made of light. He said, 1 minute they were there, and then the next minute they were gone. I was like, okay, now we're definitely going,
Yeah.
So anyway, we go back at night. We park in this one spot that there's you're allowed to park in without getting a ticket. Okay. And it just happens to be a street light right there. So the Jeep is underneath the street light right next to this hiking trail. And I don't know what this trail is used for.
Okay.
But anyway, we go back into the woods, and we decide to make base camp behind the giant monument. It's a big monument. It's 5 feet high, 7 feet wide. And we said, you know what? We'll put our backs to this thing. This way nothing can creep up on us from behind. And we'll set up all the cameras towards the hill. We got the IR camera going, the thermal imager going. And at the same time, I got the digital voice recorder going. Okay. I got the K2 meter going. And I said, well, walk up and down, and we'll work with the obelisk and see what names we get or whatever. Okay. And it's a beautiful fall night. It's late November, full moon, like a hunter's moon, and it's just absolutely crystal clear, gorgeous night. We're sitting behind the monument, and all of a sudden we hear these quad runner come racing up the dirt road, the dirt path. Now, to get to the actual cemetery, you got to go down like a bridle path, for lack of a better definition, like a quarter of a mile to get to it, Okay. So we had this quad runner coming up the road, and Brian's like, oh crap, here come the cops, they seen us come in, because we were walking in with our headlamps on, because it was dark when we went back. All of a sudden you hear these 2 kids stop on the other side of the monument. They're literally 8 inches behind us. Which way did they go? I don't know. We seen them go this way. I don't know. We don't see them. They jump on the quad runner, and they race up the hill. They go right by us. They don't even see us. They go up the hill, and now they got a headlight on their quad runner, so we can see them riding all over the woods looking for us. So now they have to.
So they're looking for you guys.
They're looking for us. Yeah, they seen us come down with the headlamps. I don't know who these people are.
Okay.
We thought they were cops originally, but then when we heard them talking, they sound like kids. You know what I mean? Like teenagers.
Right.
And so now they're coming down the hill, and they spot us, because now their headlight is right on us. So we stopped. They said, what are you guys doing? We tell them who we are and what we're doing. They said, well, hey, we'd love to interview you, get some local information.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
And the dude said, man, I want nothing to do with you or this place, and if I was you, I'd get the hell out of here.
What?
And I was like, no, I think we're going to stay for a little while longer, So they leave. Okay. They won't give us any interview. They won't give us any information. They don't tell us why we should get the hell out of there. They leave. Okay, they leave. Now we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the temperature drops like 20 degrees, and it's getting really, really cold. And the clouds roll in, and the fog rolls across the cemetery, and it looks like something out of a werewolf movie.
That beautiful fall night turned into...
I swear to God, it sounds like something out of a werewolf. It looked like something out of a werewolf movie. And I'm looking at Brian, I'm like, dude, do you see this? And he's like, this is insane. Where did this come from? It just rolled in after these kids left.
And let me ask you, and they didn't tell you why they didn't want to talk to you guys?
Nope. Nope. They said, we don't want to be on film. Don't talk to us. We just want to know who was in here. We just want to make sure there's nobody, destroying the place, like vandalizing it. They're like, okay, no, we're not vandalizing anything. They leave.
Okay.
So we're sitting there filming, and all of a sudden, they come back. These two kids come back again. They drive right by. It's like deja vu, like this. It's like a time loop. They drive right. They stop behind us again. They do the same thing they did before. They're talking. They get into the quad run. They race up the hill. They drive around. They come back down. They see us again. They stop. And I say, listen, we'll shut the cameras off. Just give us an audio, interview. Nope. And they're telling us, if you guys know what you were doing, you better get the hell out of here. You better get the hell out of here now. It's getting late, and you better get out of here. And we're like, no, we're not leaving. We're not ready to go yet, especially me. I'm not ready to go yet. Now, the whole time we are there, all during the day and all during the night, there's a lot of private homes. Everybody's got dogs, and the dogs are going off all day, barking crazy. And you can hear all kinds of dogs, German Shepherds and Pit Bulls, and, just all kinds of dogs barking, going off, because, I'm a Shepherd guy. I had a Shepherd. I know what they sound like when they bark. Brian had a Pit Bull. He knows what they sound like when they bark. And so we're saying, oh, German Shepherd, Pit Bull. And all of a sudden, we hear the most craziest bark, the biggest, deepest bark you ever heard in your life. And we both looked at each other and we said, man, we know what that is. That's no dog. Now all the dogs in the neighborhood shut up.
Yes, I already.
They just go dead quiet. All of a sudden the place got real eerie. Real eerie. And then this thing starts going off howling. Oh. Crazy how I got the digital voice recorder rolling the whole time. You know what I mean? Yes. I know I'm getting this. At one point, I'm walking around with Brian. I got the infrared camera going, and I'm filming him as he's going up and down, and we're talking. And on the audio of the infrared camera, like there was something standing in between me and him. You hear the deepest, darkest growl. It was like either this thing was invisible and it was standing in between us, or it growled from behind the monument where we didn't see it, and it was so loud. But we didn't hear the growl. I'm wrong. Brian heard it. He goes, "Did you hear that?" And I go, "Hear what?" And he goes, I just heard a growl." And I was like, "Nah, you're out of your mind. You didn't hear anything." Because Brian's got really good ears and he hears everything. I don't hear anything. I'm deaf from playing guitar my whole life. And so he hears this growl. So now, it's getting really, really cold. All of a sudden, the clouds clear up, the fog rolls away, and we're back to this crystal clear night again. And the temperature just keeps dropping. It's getting colder and colder. And I said, "Bri, we got to go. I'm freezing, man. We got to go, And I'm usually good. I dress for the weather, So I was like, I don't know if I was chilled to the bone or what, but it just got so damn cold. Even the thermal imager was saying how cold it was. It was like, it went from like 60 degrees to like, 30, everything just dropped. So now we're hiking out. We pack up all our equipment. We're hiking out, and we're walking back up to our car. And like I said, there's just this one tiny little lamp over our car. Everything else is pitch black. So we got our headlamps on, and we got pretty powerful headlamps. We can see pretty far. Right. And we're walking up the road with our headlamps on, and all of a sudden, I see two yellow eyes behind my car. Oh. And I stop Brian. We're in the middle of the road. I stop Brian. I go, "Dude, look up at the car on the passenger side. What do you see?" And he looks up there and he says, "I see two big amber color eyes." I go, "Yeah. Do you see how?" I was like, "We got to, so we both kind of have a feeling we know what's up there, right?" So as we getting closer to now, we don't have any weapons. All we got is
flashlight,
our pepper spray, because we thought we were going to a regular cemetery. We didn't know it was going to be a creepy cemetery in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
So we get to the car, and Brian decides he's got to urinate. Dude, I got to go. I'm like, dude, get in the Jeep. And he's, dude, I got to go. I go, dude, get in the Jeep.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at this creature. This thing, whatever this thing is, it's not a deer. It didn't run away when we got closer to it. It didn't jump and run. It stayed its ground. And I turned to Brian. I said, look at this thing. If this thing is sitting down on its hindquarters, it's 5 feet tall. What kind of dog is 5 feet tall sitting down?
Yeah.
And Brian says, unless it's just sitting down on its haunches and it's not actually sitting down, then that's, that would explain. But this thing was a predator. He was 5 feet off of that hiking trail, waiting for something to come down that trail.
Okay.
To get. And I was like, and I'm not taking my eyes off of these two amber eyes.
Right.
I said, I went in the truck. I popped the door open. I said, let me open up that passenger side door because it's on Brian's side of the truck. And I'm like, let's put the door between you and this thing because you got to get in right there. So I'm watching him. And then all of a sudden, this thing must have shut its eyes, closed its eyes, because now all of a sudden it's invisible. It's gone. Okay.
How close was it to your vehicle? About
5 feet away.
Oh.
5 feet away. I had to be no more than 5 feet away. And I got my headlamp on. This is the fall. There's no leaves on the trees, but there's a lot of shrub on the undergrowth.
Okay.
So I can't see it even with my headlamp on. And I turned to Brian and I said, dude, it just went dark on us. I said, I don't think this thing is leaving. The vibe I got was that this thing was down on its belly and it was crawling towards us, probably towards Brian because he was on that side of the truck urinating.
Oh, but
I was already on the driver's side, and I said, dude,
get in the truck.
Get in the truck right now, or I'm leaving you here.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting a second more. I don't care if you piss in your pants, get in the truck. And he's like, okay, I'm done. He jumps in the truck, he closes the door, and I threw it in 4-wheel drive, and we hauled ass out of there. And there's no doubt in either one of our minds that was a Dogman. They're always around cemeteries. It was probably there for whatever reason. I don't know if it was hunting us because it seen the truck there, or if it thought maybe there was somebody hiking on the trail and they had to come back down the trail to get to the truck, and it was gonna, hunt
and those
them,
guys
them,
on the quads that were refusing to tell. They were so mysterious. It's like,
yeah, it was weird. It was so weird because the second time they came in, they said they did everything the same way they did the first time. It was like on a time loop. It was like, I look at Brian and said, this is like deja vu. These guys, it's like they don't even know that we just had this conversation, that we're on the other side of this monument,
Uh-huh.
But we let them go by and we let them do everything they did the first time. But I'm telling you, there's no doubt in my mind the growl we got on the if it wasn't the Dogman growl that we got on the IR camera, then it was a goddamn demon. Okay.
Right, whatever it was like.
And the howls we got on the digital voice recorder was definitely no normal dog. Between the one giant bark that was so much deeper and louder than all the other ones, and then the howls were blood curdling. They just put shivers down your spine. And I was like, we got to come back, but we'll come back in the summer when it's warm,
Well,
but that was crazy.
And it makes you wonder. And let me ask you that you just mentioned that thing about that Dogman. There's a connection between Dogman and cemeteries or graveyards.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yep.
They found like they're more often seen around there.
Yeah, for some reason they tend to be around cemeteries and graveyards. Yeah, I don't know what the connection is with that, but that's the research has shown that there are more sightings around those areas than anywhere else.
Right.
But
and you know what? And sometimes people don't. And I'm sure you've seen it more up there in the Northeast, where sometimes there would be like smaller cemeteries that people find like in the middle of the woods that, people forget about. And maybe some of the sightings are to these smaller forgotten cemeteries, either a village or a family cemetery.
I've actually found exactly what you're talking about. We were investigating the ancient stone chambers. We got these ancient stone chambers that are all over the woods up here. Okay. Nobody knows who built them. The Native Americans say it wasn't us. We didn't work in stone. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we were at these two chambers. It's called the King and the Queen's Chamber. We were up in these woods and investigating the King and Queen's Chamber, and we were just walking around. Again, it was in the fall. We would have never seen it if it was in the summertime, but all of a sudden, the way the light was shining through the trees, it was hitting a headstone. Okay, and I was like, "Wow, what's that?" And we went over there, and it's this tiny little cemetery in the middle of the woods. Nobody knows it's there. Yeah. It was just, I don't know if it was just a family plot or what. The stones were so worn out, you couldn't read the names on them, the dates or anything. It was just like the weather had wiped them clean. It was just stones, and I always wanted to go back. I want to go back and do that cemetery at night. Yes. So that's on a to-do list. But it's so hard to find. It's hard to find during the day because it's so small. It's even harder to find at night. So
well, this is the thing. People get used to now cemeteries, as in big cemeteries or official cemeteries, and people don't realize that back then, people it was either a small town or, like you said, a family or even a village. It wasn't. You weren't. First back they did have embalming. People decomposed quick, so they would set up these small cemeteries that eventually get forgotten. Especially if the family moves away or the village for some reason just people move away.
Or people just die off.
Yeah, they die off.
If it's a family plot and there's 8 people in the family and the last one dies. You got to remember back then, people, they're between the sicknesses and, the Native Americans fighting with the Native Americans, the settlers and stuff. So, they didn't live long, healthy lives, with hard life.
I tell people, there was no 911. There was no paramedics to come. People died sometimes from blood poisoning. You got a cut that really wasn't serious, but you got blood poisoning. There was a lot of stuff that could kill you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, but this is when I tell you, I get a creepy vibe when I go to this place. The vibe is just off my spider sense.
Let me ask you, how far is Letchworth Village from where you live? Is it far away?
From where I live, it's about, I would say, an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Okay, that's pretty far.
It's not that far, you know what I mean? It's doable. Yeah, I mean, because we went back. We've done the actual insane asylum twice. You know, so.
No, you know what? The reason I was asking is, that there's this theory about that once you see certain creatures, that in other words, you saw me connected. Exactly.
Yeah, you make a connection. Yes.
Well, in other words, until you see them, you could go to places and you just don't see them. But once it's like you saw me and I see you, and then you see them when you go to places that before maybe you wouldn't have noticed.
No, and I think that's a valid point. I really, especially with the Dogman, I think there's some kind of connection. I don't know if it's, some kind of physical connection with your sight. Or some kind of scent, they pick up your scent or whatever. But once you lock eyes, like I said, when I locked eyes with those two Dogmen on the side of the parkway, it was like they put me in a trance.
Right.
I was just, I'm stopped in the middle of the parkway. Somebody could have came down doing 65 miles an hour and just killed me,
Right.
And I was in a trance, and not until they started running over to me, and they were coming, you know what I mean? They weren't just like walking over. They were running, and then that little voice in the back of my head kicked in and said, "Time to leave,"
Yeah.
But
let me ask you something, Al. What do you think? And I'm sure you've heard of all these disappearances. Dave Paulides has done a done the 411.
4-1, yeah, sure.
And I mean, he's crunched the numbers.
Yeah, no, he crunched the numbers, absolutely.
He crunched the numbers and, the common denominators and, like he said, excluding certain things that, hey, people that go in there that are suicidal, predation from, God knows there's a lot of stuff there that'll take a human. He's excluded those. And, of course, and I understand why, he's never said this is what it is. And people are going through the extraterrestrial kidnappings, and I know some people are even thinking cryptids.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any theory on that? Because
I think it's all plausible. I think it's a little bit of everything. I really do. Mm-hmm. There are certain locations,
right,
on this planet, especially in the woods.
Right.
There are energy fields, vortexes, portals, whatever you want to call them, where things come in and out of. Like our sacred site, my psychic, who does all her reading from Arkansas, she does it over the phone. She calls me a conduit. She reads everything through me, and she's like 4th generation. She's absolutely amazing, and we still question everything she says.
Okay.
But she said, like, this our sacred site, she said, is definitely a portal. She said that place is just and like, so as a matter of fact, I did a seminar Saturday night, okay, in Connecticut, and after it was all over, I had one of the audience members came over and said, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "Sure, go ahead, shoot." And she's like, "Do you know what the Dover Demon is?" And I said, "Absolutely, I know what the Dover Demon is." And she says, "Do you think it's a cryptid?" And I said, "No." And she says, "Why not?" I said, "I get the vibe." And I said, and it's just my personal opinion. It's just the vibe that I get. Okay, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but the vibe I get when I see that creature. And she was Native American, this woman, okay?
Okay.
And an artist, and she actually had the photograph too. She showed me which is like the same thing they show on TV when you watch those shows.
Right.
The artist rendition, like the kids drew back in the 70s or whatever.
Right.
And I said, the vibe, it's alien, but not extraterrestrial from outer space, alien from interdimensional. That's the vibe I get. I said when you say cryptid to me, the images that come to my head are Dogman, Sasquatch, the Lizard Man, the Mothman, stuff like that. You know what I mean? The Jersey Devil. Right. Not something that looks like that.
Exactly.
That's not a cryptid to me. That could be something that's just natural in the woods, like a wood nymph, or a nature spirit, or something like that. It's just something
that's
coming
there
in
all the time,
or just coming through in a different dimension whenever that dimension opens up and it can get in and out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what I said. I said, look, that's the best way I could describe it. I mean, nobody knows for sure, but I just don't feel that it's whatchamacallit, because most of these cryptids are usually pretty damn big and pretty damn strong. You know what I mean? Yeah. You never see any little tiny lizard man running. Everything is 7 feet tall, 8 foot tall, 10 foot tall. You know what I mean? And massive and strong. So I wouldn't consider the Dover Demon a cryptid.
Right, and you're absolutely right. All those cryptids, when they're sighted, they're 6, 7, 8 feet tall, really tall. As a matter of fact, that's, whatever version of Bigfoot it is, from different parts of the United States, it's always that they're huge. And Lizard Man, same thing. Dogman, same thing.
Yeah, I hate the term Dogman. I use lichen. I like to use the word lichen because that's what the Greeks called them.
Yes.
But I mean, that's the modern difference. You know what I seen the other day on the Parkway? Gonna freak you out.
What?
I'm driving to work again, 5:00 in the morning. It's pitch black. There's a herd of deer right by a golf course, and they're grazing on the high grass, right? And I see this white, thing looks like a white spider with a human head. Goddamn rake.
Are you? Oh my!
Hand to God.
I would have gone back home.
I did like a triple take, because this particular location where these deer graze,
Right.
because it's by a golf course, the
Right.
cops usually back up into the woods. It's like a speed trap.
Yes.
So
okay.
as I come around that turn, I usually hit it with my high beams
Right.
to see if there's any cops back there hiding. Because I'm always going a few miles over the speed limit.
Yeah.
And so there was no cops. But I see this white thing, and it's creeping up on the deer.
And you must be thinking, what kind of deer is that? What is?
And I'm thinking, is that a white spider? Because all I seen was elbows and arms and knees.
Yeah.
And it looked like, but it had a human head. And then it dawns on me, holy crap, this thing is a rake. And it's creeping up on these deer, and they don't even know it's there. They're oblivious to it.
Right.
And I get to work. I call my partner Brian. I said, "Brian, you're not going to believe what I seen." I was like, "I'm going to go back after work." And I said, "It may have been." I said, "It may have been just like a white lounge chair, some person's lawn furniture that fell off the back of their pickup truck. Maybe I'm seeing it upside down, and it just I didn't."
Right.
So I went back. Then it rained that whole day. It rained cats and dogs. So when I went back, there was no lawn furniture on the side of the road, and but I couldn't find. There wasn't any carcass there of any of the deer, and there was no blood. But it rained all day, so it could have washed the blood away,
Sure.
and the creature could have just taken the deer carcass with it if it was able to get any of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But unbelievable.
And it makes you think, because usually deer are pretty sensitive. I mean, they take off.
Get it. I got deer in my backyard. They could be in my far backyard grazing.
Mm-hmm.
I turn the light on in the kitchen, or I open up the refrigerator door, and they all pop their heads up and look. You know what I mean? So, and that's through, 100 yards away, through sliding glass door. They hear that refrigerator door opening. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it for the life of me. I couldn't believe it.
You know what? I heard this story, and I don't know, and I'm going to ask you maybe if you've heard something similar. This was a story that I heard on, I can't remember now whose program it was. I heard it, and I want to say it took place in Missouri. It was somewhere in the middle of the United States.
Okay.
And this guy's talking about how he's a teenager, and he's growing up, and the family lives on like this big kind of farmland, like same thing, surrounded by acres and acres of woods. And they have a big spread out there. And he says one day the families and him and his brother and his sister and his dad are playing like not hide and go seek, but what was it that he called it? Something like seek or seek and destroy, something like that. A version of hide and go seek, right? So he says that they're out there and they're playing teams. Him and his brother are playing against his dad and his sister. One of those deals. And his sister and his dad are supposed to be hiding out there. And same thing, like, they have trees. So and he says that they have like a little copse of woods, which was close to the house. Like, they were very familiar with it, in other words. Yeah, beyond that, they had woodland, but they weren't going in there. They were staying in this little area. So he says he's looking, and he's looking and he says that all of a sudden he looks like, almost like what you described, when there's an area right underneath the branches, like where all you see is the main trunk of the tree.
Right.
And he says he looks and he sees what looks like legs and bare feet.
And white as a ghost.
And really pale.
Yeah. And
he said his first thing is thinking is, why is his dad hiding with no shoes on? He doesn't wig out immediately as to what is that. So he says he goes around, he can't find it. So then all of a sudden they go back down to the area, and he says his dad and his sister are waiting for them. And he's looking at his dad, and his dad is fully clothed. And he's like, "Yeah, weren't you up there?" Like, he's still trying to make the connection. And his dad is like, "What are you talking about? I've been sitting here with your sister waiting for you guys." Because it was already starting to get dark. It was like, sun's going down. And in other words, he saw something in there then take off. And like I said, it wasn't until later that he kind of officially wigged out over what he saw.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was on Paranormal Roundtable. I heard that story too.
I can't remember where I heard it.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was Paranormal Roundtable.
And I had never heard of that before. Of something that's humanoid looking. How's that?
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
And I don't know if you had ever heard of that, besides that particular story, if you had ever heard of anybody else having a similar type of, thing like that, where basically this thing looked to be hiding out in this little area close to where they were running around and playing. And I was
I mean, I've heard a lot of stories with that have to do with the rake, but what that thing was doing there, I don't know. Maybe he was, hunting that child,
Yeah.
Until the child spotted it,
Yeah, exactly.
But because I don't think these creatures are afraid of humans at all,
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and back in the day, we used to call those things skinwalkers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now they call them rakes, so we'll go with a rake. But
Right.
I always considered it a skinwalker. So I mean, if it's something like that, that's some kind of a demon or something. It's just
there's different versions, but one of the things that skinwalkers are known for being, when I say cannibal. Well, cannibals usually that you eat your own kind, but that they do eat human flesh. That's one of the things that you connect with a skinwalker.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the from what I understand, the processes that they have to do with the black magic to actually be able to shape shift and become the creature that they become.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That it's that puts a whole different spin on it, as in where they might actively pursue a human being, not because, like you said, not like what your experience was, like, oh, I got into your territory and you're just trying to show me, now I know where you're at. There's more of an intent, and of course,
absolutely.
If you're a child or a young adult, it's much easier to take than a full-grown human being.
Oh yeah, easy prey, absolutely. If you're 6-7 feet tall.
Yes.
A supernatural creature, and a 4-foot child, 60 pounds, comes walking right up to you. That's like ringing the dinner bell.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the kid was lucky enough that he seen the feet, and they knew that wasn't
right.
That wasn't right. There's something wrong there. That he turned and went back to where they originally started the game, where he found his father and sister, but.
And you know what?
I mean, who knows what
People
happened?
Don't realize.
And that's another thing,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's another thing that could be taking these people with the 411 in the woods. I mean, not only is it aliens and Sasquatches and Dogmen, but it could be these rake creatures too,
Of course.
that are taking these small children.
Well, and this is the thing, and I'm not a hunter by any, but people don't realize how something that's used to being either in woodland, they know how to camouflage themselves. And I'm gonna do like a really weird comparison, but I have a lot of chickens, and some of them are not your regular white chickens. I have game hens. They're coloring, and their feathers. Those things can disappear into grass. Okay? They blend in so well. And my point being that there's things out there in the woods that they could be basically in front of you, and you can't see them because they're camouflaged so well.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a calico cat. My cat that's still outside Cali. This time of the year with the foliage, the different color leaves and everything. If she lays down in the grass, like to hunt the birds at the bird feeder, if she lays down in between all the leaves, you'll never see her out there.
Yeah.
You'll never until she moves. You won't see her.
Yes,
and she looks just like everything else in the yard.
Right, and they're domestic. Yeah. That's a domestic animal, or the chickens like what I have. I have guinea hens and stuff like that. And those things, they go into the brush here, because I have a lot of brush on my surrounding, on the fence line all the way towards the back.
Okay.
And they can disappear, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they get startled, even though my chickens are kind of tame because I feed them. So it's like it's the
No,
lady with the food, you know.
You could end up stepping on them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. People don't realize how things can blend in, where what we're talking about, that if something is trying to prey on a human being or observe them, and that thing about people see what they expect to see, and they overlook the obvious.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people go into like where our sacred site is. We know for a fact that the Dogman is on the east side of the woods, right. And we know for a fact that the Sasquatches are on the west side of the woods. We know that. We know that for a fact. We found the sacred site. We found the Dogman den, and the Appalachian Trail runs right in between them. Okay. And there are people out there every weekend hiking up and down that trail with their kids. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see parents out there with their kids, 100 feet ahead of them, running down the trail where they're, 100 feet behind them, talking to one another or playing on their phone, not paying attention to the kids because the kids are just running wild.
Right.
I mean, that kid goes around a turn and something snatches it. Yes. It's gone. It's just like magically disappears. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I'll go in on my day off. I get like one day off during the middle of the week. I'll go in and I'll but when I go in, I don't care if I go in during the day or I go in at night. I'm carrying an 18-inch machete, right, a 10-inch survival knife, and 2 cans of pepper spray. Right. Because I'm not going into the woods. Of course, I always do a white prayer and I sage before and after, because there are entities in the woods that will attach themselves to you if given the chance. And these people go in there, and I'm not even talking about the supernatural elements that are in the woods, but just the natural. We have mountain lions, we have black bears, we have bobcats, we have moose up here, we have everything. Any one of these predators could take one of these kids, and these parents are walking through the woods. They're not even carrying any weapons, not even bear spray, nothing. So if a mountain lion comes down and grabs one of their kids, do you think hitting it with a stick is going to stop a hungry mountain lion?
Of course not.
No. He's going to grab that kid and run off. You're not going to get that kid back. You're not. You're just not. Or a black bear that may be rabied. This creature is out of its mind. It's out of control. You think you're going to stop it with a rock? No.
Yeah,
no,
people think that because you go, hey, the animal's going to be like, oh no. They don't care. I mean, even over here, we have people all the time, especially during alligator mating season. They got alligators in their backyards, in the pools. Some of them have even come into their kitchens. They've gone into screen doors, and it's like, some of these animals don't care about you being human. It's like,
no, and you know what? And like 9 out of 10 times, an animal will run if it hears a human because they know we're dangerous.
Yeah,
not 9, but a mountain lion. If he's stalking you from behind, he's not running. And if you get a bear on a bad day, you know what I mean? Maybe with an infection or something like that, he's not running. You can scream and yell all you want. They're not running. You better have something on you. And when I go out, I never let anybody carry any firearms because I don't want to be responsible for someone getting scared and shooting somebody. Right. You know what I mean? So I always say, have steel between you and what's ever in front of you. Steel you can control. You know what I mean? It's in your hand. You got control of it. So,
people don't realize also that predators, if they get old, if they get sick, if they're hurt and they're hungry, they'll go after prey that they normally would not go after.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah.
And then that's something. We're easy prey. Let's face it.
We're easy prey. Let's face it. We are. The only reason they don't get more of us is because they know we'll come back with dogs and more people with guns, and we'll hunt them down and we'll kill them.
Yeah, but if it's an animal that hasn't eaten,
it's coming for you. Without a doubt, it's coming. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I never go into the woods unarmed. Never. I refuse to, even on a nature hike. No, thank you.
And it's like, and I think all predators sense, just like human predators, when you've got a prey that's alert versus the ones like you just described that they're like, oh, it's a we're sightseeing, like, yeah, I can get these easy. Versus that one over there, nah, I'm gonna let that one go by.
Or even if you just if a predator comes up on you and you're willing to fight, you know what I mean?
Yes.
A predator is gonna judge.
Yes.
Am I gonna get hurt trying to take this thing down? Am I going to get injured? If I'm going to get injured, maybe I'll just wait for something easier. Yeah. Otherwise, because they're not stupid. They don't want to get hurt. That's why they attack from behind. They sneak up on things. They don't want to get injured.
Well, no, so, even in the wild, predators usually will go after the young. It's easier prey.
And I always tell everybody I take out with me, if I take a group out like squatching, I always tell them, whatever you do, you can't run. I understand it's scary.
It's like, yeah,
I get it. It's scary. I get it. But you can't run. First of all, you can't outrun these creatures. That's number one. And number two, if you do turn and run, you may send off their prey drive, and they may run you down. You stand your ground. You strength in numbers, and it's usually enough for these creatures to, unless they're really out of control, to not attack. It really is, but you can't turn and run. You can't. It's the worst thing you could possibly do.
You know what? I'm going to tell you a quick story that points that out. You remember back in, I want to say it was the 60s, you remember that old Born Free, that big docu movie that they made about these people that had like a lion preserve out in Africa?
Sure, absolutely.
And it was like one of the big, this was when they started doing these things about, the lions and everything. Well, the lady, they were married. She was the one that did the photography in the documentary about Elsa the lion. But her husband stayed out there for many years, and he had his own preserve of lions. That's all he did was work with lions. And they stayed in touch, but he says basically these lions, some of them he had them since cubs. And he said one time, he was a little bit older already, because he spent his whole life out there. One time, he stumbled and fell. And one of the lions, the male lions, attacked him. Why? Because his body movement was... In other words, where they had these lions basically around them. They,
Yeah, sure, absolutely. They're all around them, yeah.
They weren't like behind a fence or anything like this. No,
they were like they're house cats. Absolutely.
They were like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he said he was already getting older, and he stumbled, and he he did, when you do this full body thing like into the ground, he fell, and he says that lion got on his back, and he says that it stopped himself. He says he knows that the thing could have grabbed him by the back of the neck and broken his neck. He realized,
absolutely.
But that it sprang at him, ready to take him down. And he says he realized that his body language at that moment was the same as when an animal is hurt or tripped or vulnerable.
Right. Yeah, it's just the lion's prey drive just kicked in.
Yes.
Seen an animal stumble and boom, now I can pounce on them. Yeah.
Right. And exactly to the point of what you were saying, that when you tell the group that you go out there, don't run, because all you're going to do is put a bullseye on yourself, and it might make it worse, but instead of better, and you can't outrun it.
No, you can't outrun them. No, absolutely. Yeah.
That's good. That's something to keep in mind. But anyway, thank you so much, Al.
It was my pleasure.
I'm going to put a link to your website, but for the podcast listeners, what is your website address?
The Bronxville Paranormal Society.com.
Okay, and I'm going to have a link to it. Again,
thank
you so much, and it's been wonderful. I can talk so much.
The Facebook page is much more up to date.
Oh, really?
So if you want to go to the Facebook page, that's I'm spending more time on that than anything else, so I can't seem to get around to get to all the pages, because Brian's got us on 10,000 different sites.
Let me ask you something. On Facebook, is it the same name that you have?
Yeah, it's the Bronxville Paranormal Society. Okay. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
so there you
But
have
either
it.
or. Yeah, and they got the hotline on there, too, if there's anybody needs to get a hold of me, ask me any questions or whatever. There's a
Okay.
hotline that comes directly to my phone.
Let me ask you, do you have list any of, if you're going to be doing any lectures or anything like that, or any event that you're attending?
You know what? Like I said, I did this presentation
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night in Connecticut, and I did meet like 2 or 3 promoters that were at that did attend, and
Okay.
they all did come over to me and said they plan on doing something in the future, and they'd like me to come and talk.
Okay.
So
All right,
yeah.
perfect. Okay. All right. Again, thank you so much. It has been absolutely wonderful to speak to you.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, guys. He's great to talk to him. Let me tell you something. And that was just, I'm not kidding. We spoke, we talked ahead of time, like what we were going to talk about, because we could talk about so many different things. Ghosts, Bigfoot. And we said, okay, let's go with Dogman, because we got to narrow it down or we're going to have a 3-hour show. But, again, what I like about Al is he's out in the field. And I'm a big fan of field work because I'm into research, and you can't have one or the other, because some people are all research, no field work. Other people are all field work, no research. And I hate to say it, some people doing research is like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I got to sit down and it's boring, or I got to go through all this, because research sometimes goes on dead ends. You don't find anything, or you don't find what you expect. But he's a good researcher, and he does the field work. And also something that's really important, he's familiar with the area. And just like places that have a reputation for being haunted or whatever, sometimes you go out there, nothing happens or nothing's significant. And it's only when you go out there under different circumstances that you start seeing either a pattern, or you have those moments of being, like what they say, at the right place at the right time, that you actually do see something or start noticing, like I said, a pattern. And he has that ability. Plus, again, he lives in an area which is, even though, there's a lot of wooded area, and did you see, he was observing when he went hiking through there, he realized, contrary to what he originally thought, that there was a lot of food source out there. Okay? There was a chain of food, like this could feed this, that could feed this, that will bring in something for, let's say, a dogman to feed or be lured in. Because that's another thing. People don't realize that sometimes predators do migrate from one area to another. Either one, following their food source, or if the area that they normally go to for their food source for some reason has changed. Could be, sometimes it's just a new road that's being laid through an area that drives off, let's say, deer or their normal food source. All of a sudden they have to go looking for food. And whereas maybe in an area there was never any prior sightings of anything, all of a sudden you see it, and nobody understands, well, why now? What happened? And it's, especially with predators, this is, and I think once upon a time, human beings, this is all people thought about was, how am I going to eat? How am I going to eat? Your time was consumed in, especially if you were either if you ate meat at some point, whether you were total carnivore or an omnivore, which some of your diet consisted of meat, you spent a lot of your time hunting. Okay, because this is not grass. It's not going to be everywhere you go, or branches or leaves. Unless there was some type of drought or something. But otherwise, when you had to chase your food or hunt it, you spent a lot of time that was always on your... And this is sometimes what happens also with predators. They follow their food source. Or, depending, migrations, of course, weather. But again, this also is why you will see certain sightings of certain things where perhaps historically there hasn't been any. And you might not know what caused a shift in what they fed on is gone, so now they're looking for a new source. Or they followed it over there. And that happens a lot of times. And I do believe in that comparison, that if sometimes these, especially when we're talking these types of creatures, it's almost like you're both off each other's radar until you see them. Something changes in the equation when you see them. You know, what is it? You look long enough into the abyss and it starts looking back at you, some version of that. And it's almost the same thing. It's like once you see them, they see you. And now it's like, okay. That's why, you know, when a lot of people sometimes go, whether it's ghost hunting or even when if you're doing legend tripping or looking for a cryptid or whatever, sometimes you cannot unsee it. You know, in other words, is it everything you expected? Yeah, that and more. And as a matter of fact, you know, I listen to different podcasts that talk about people relating their first-hand experiences with cryptids. But let's go with the Dogman, which is what we were talking about. And as a matter of fact, I was commenting to Al before we started recording. It's like, you know what? You never hear of people, you know, like, oh, that was a positive experience. Some people, a lot of the stories I've heard of people is that it bewilders them, it scares them. And a lot of the times the people that are recounting these stories are men, full-grown men. A lot of them are outdoorsmen or hunters or have lived a long time in a certain area where they had this sighting. And up until then, they were, for lack of a better word, happy-go-lucky. They would go into the woods, go here, go there, go camping, or whatever the case, hunting. And they never thought twice. And they weren't scared. I mean, yeah, they took normal precautions, like what he was describing, but there was no fear. Once they have this sighting of a Dogman, then everything changes for them. I mean, some of them you could tell, like by listening to them, they're profoundly affected, and basically what they're describing is PTSD, where that memory is so fresh for them that sometimes it takes years for them to even go back out, like say camping or in the woods. Some of them, they'll say, hey, I'm not going to get caught outdoors if it's sundown's coming and I'm going back inside, especially if they live in some area that's rural and they had a sight, something similar to what happened to Al, either if they see it in their woods close by or even close to their home or their land, or in some cases, some of them have had animals that have gone missing, you know, like stuff that you keep, like chickens, things like this. And again, some of the times they immediately think of the usual suspects. I've got a fox or some type of other animal that's getting in there and killing my chickens or my whatever fowl or whatever. And then later on, when they actually have the sighting, they realize what it was that was taking what they had. And all these people come to the same conclusion. Not that the Dogman attacked them per se, but they all felt that this thing can get me whenever it wants. Okay. In other words, if you take away the intimidating, it looks like a huge wolf thing, man, whatever, the thought is, this thing can take me whenever it wants. It's a super predator. It can pounce on me. It can outrun me. It could take me and be gone into the woods, which is its habitat. And that's the end of that. So let me tell you something. When he was describing that thing about seeing something under the deck. God, I don't know. I probably would have run screaming like a little girl. But, and I understand, and it's really funny because what he was describing is he's thinking in other words, he's going through this like little list of what is that under my deck? And I think that's what I hear a lot of people in common that have these sightings. They don't go to, oh, it's Dogman. No, they're like, what is that? They're going through trying to explain it, and it takes a while for to them go through the list and go, okay, that's not none of the above. And then that long buried instinct that I think we still all have in us, buried somewhere, where for all that we're the hunters, at one time we were the prey, kicks in and warns us internally, you need to stop, back up, and get out of here. Or go inside the house, or get inside the car, like what happened to him when he was at that cemetery. And let me tell you something, hats off to him, because there's a lot of people that they dismiss it. Like they feel, I'm not going to leave. Oh, it's my imagination, or I'm just, in other words, and I'm going to say this for the men, don't get mad, especially men who don't want to feel like they're running from something. When they have those alarm bells go off, and they really can't see what it is. Or it's not really what is that? Like if I confront it, if I back away from this, they've got that internal chatter that might be saying, "Oh, are you going to be a coward? What are you going to be this?" And a few chosen words and they don't. And I think sometimes people have the worst encounters in their life, or get at the short end of the stick, because they don't listen to their instincts that are telling them you need to leave. Or get inside the car, or get inside the house, or just leave, back up, walk away, or because there's, and I'm very familiar with the way subconscious works. Sometimes we pick up on things visually and even our hearing that we're not aware of, that we've actually are picking up on. And by this, I'm saying, some people could say, well, ESP or psychic. Yes, but there's a part of us, there's a lot that our senses pick up on that we're not aware, that we're basically feeding into our brains, that we just don't recognize on a conscious level. But we are picking up on it, and that's what sets off the alarm bells. It's not like magic, woo, woo, woo. This is our brains saying, I'm translating all this noise or something that you're seeing, but you're not recognizing what it is, and you need to back up and leave. And I've mentioned this before. There's God, I can't remember what the author is. I believe the title of the book was The Gift of Fear, and the author was, I want to say, God, I can't remember his name. I believe he was a criminal profiler. And he wrote it from the perspective of people that are victimized, victims of crime, quite violent crimes. And in it, he describes how people that have been attacked from really, really horrible attacks, violent attacks that have survived, because obviously they couldn't tell the story if they didn't. All of them will recount how prior to the attacks, they felt fear, and they didn't heed it. And of course, they got attacked. And that's why they title it's The Gift of Fear. In other words, fear is not always a negative. Fear sometimes, and it's especially when we can't not name it or see it, we just feel it, that it is a warning system. And, they say, if I remember correctly, there was parts of people thinking, hey, somebody's following me. That this thought is going, and they dismiss it because they're just
It's my imagination. You get scared. Oh, somebody's following me. Or, hey, you know what? If you're approaching, let's say you live in an apartment building, and you think or you heard something behind you, or maybe a shadow under the stairwell or something, and you feel that, spike of fear, and people dismiss it, and it turns out that their attacker was there. And sometimes, even when they have people that are stalking them, that they'll follow them around for a few days. This happens especially with women. That this, their attacker kind of like stalked them for a few days before they actually committed the crime, and they dismissed it because it was like, oh, that's like, it's almost like, oh, this is like the movie of the week or the crime drama. This doesn't really happen to people. And it's like, why not? And by this, I don't mean you're going to... And I think also that falls into part of, which, by the way, is appropriate whether you're in the woods or in the streets, is be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of who's doing what around you. And what me and Al were discussing, how predators, even predators, like in animal predators, sense the difference between a person or prey that's alert versus the ones that are like, I'm too busy eating, or in this case, sightseeing, or on my phone, things like that. So, yeah, all these things, it boils down to a really important concept that I hate to say a lot of humans have forgotten about. It's called self-preservation. Yep. Yeah, self-preservation, because again, police, 911, fire rescue, that sometimes, unless you're into self-preservation, they're not going to be able to save you. Or, what's solve the crime? Yeah, but I'm dead. Thanks. No, it's up to you. What do you going to do to take care of yourself? Even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes until the cavalry gets there. You're hoping at least. Like, what are you going to do to keep yourself alive? Or to make sure that if there's somebody out there, whether in the woods the predator is an animal predator, or some other place where your predator is a human being, that they look at you and they say, nah, that's not a good prey because this person is alert, this person's going to fight back, or something's going to happen, and I'll look for an easier prey. Like all things. But anyway, guys, I hope you like this show. I love speaking to Al. He's super interesting. I urge you to check him out on Facebook, on his website, especially if you've got interesting stories or maybe something out where he lives at, up in the Northeast. Get a hold of him. Make sure to check out my new book, Walker Between the Worlds. And again, guys, thank you for being part of my audience. You are all wonderful. Take care.